Welcome, junior and senior high teachers, to our bottoms up understanding canola and pulses from the soil up. On the agenda today, we'll talk about a little bit who Deborah and I are. We're going to talk about canola and pulses, soil chemistry, and we'll be looking more of what soil chemistry is from an explanation with Lara Demasiak, who is a precision agronomist. And then we'll look at the impact of growth of canola and pulses regarding soil chemistry. And there will be an additional video demonstration of how to do soil ribbon testing that you can review at your own leisure. And then we'll talk about the sustainability practices by pulses, canola and farmers, look at nutrients for plants and people, explore versatility, sustainability of pulses and canola. And then lastly, we have a food demonstration video for you on black bean egg bites video, which sounds absolutely amazing at this time as I'm a little bit hungry. So carrying on, I am Tara Baycroft. I am the Public Engagement and Promotions Manager with Alberta Canola, and I oversee Learn Canola and the national part of the National Canola Eat Well team. And Alberta Canola's mission is to support the long-term success of canola farmers in Alberta through research, extension, consumer engagement, and advocacy. Alberta canola producers, it came to be about in 1989. We support over 14,000 canola producers in the province, and the commission in no way regulates or is involved with the production, buying, or selling of canola. And I am going to turn it over to Deborah now, and she'll talk about herself and what her role is with Alberta Pulse Growers. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Hi, teachers, and welcome to our presentation today. I'm Deborah McLennan. I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm the Food and Nutrition Coordinator with the Alberta Pulse Growers Commission. We represent the 6,000 farmers that grow beans, peas, lentils, chickpeas, faba beans, and soybeans here in our wonderful sunny Alberta province. We are a not-for-profit organization that's funded by our farmers, and our vision is to have pulses on every farm, on every plate. So welcome.
Thank you, Deborah. So carrying on, so we're going to take a little bit of a quick journey in regards to what is canola. On the screen here up to my right-hand side of the screen is a quick image of the canola plant in regards to the flowers, which come from which help to contribute to pod development, to seed development, and everything starts from the canola seed, of course. So here's a quick reference for your take. And then we have a video right away as well that you can reference on your own time again with more detail that explains how canola is produced and grown a little bit more in detail. And the last thing I'd just like to raise while we're on the screen is that canola oil is about 45% oil, and the remainder is canola meal, which is often used as a form of animal feed and pellets and so forth. So carrying on, now I'd like to turn it back over to Deborah, who is going to talk about what are pulses. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tara. So yeah, I'd like to include this a little bit to talk to you a little bit about what pulses are, because it's the terminology that I get questions about. So pulses are an ancient plant species, and they've existed for millions of years. Pulses are the dry edible seed of pod plants, and they're part of the legume family. The word pulse comes from the Latin word pulse, which means thick soup, pottage or thick soup. And you'll find pulses growing in many conditions and regions around the world. And what I've got here is this wonderful image that I found that talks about the major legumes. So again, pulses are part of the legume family. You kind of divide it into two categories. Oilseed legumes, those are peanuts and soybeans. So not as much fiber, they do have protein, but they do have a higher fat content. The non-oilseed legumes are much lower in fat, but have a greater fiber content. And then you can further divide those into undried legumes, or fresh, I call them fresh vegetables. So think of peas from, like peas and carrots peas that you pick in the garden, or green beans or yellow beans. So those are what we call the fresh. Lots of fiber, very low in fat, but not a ton of protein in them. Pulses are harvested dry. That's what separates them from their fresh counterparts. So they dry in the field, they're harvested dry, high in protein, high in fiber, low in fat. And as you can see across the bottom, there's the major 5 most common that you'll find. So if we flip to the next slide, what we'll find here is that within Canada, we grow a significant amount of pulses. So across the prairie provinces of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and we see some production of beans in Ontario, as well as a little bit into Quebec. Canada is the largest producer and exporter of lentils and dried peas in the world. And actually, we export 70 to 80% of what we grow. So the pulses are the 5th largest crop grown in Canada. So if you kind of blow this up into, well, what do we do in Alberta? So in Alberta, we grow a wide variety of pulses. So green and yellow peas are our largest pulse crop. They grow all across the province. Our province, for our purposes, we divided it into 5 growing zones. So the zones reflect the soil conditions and the kind of climate that you find there. So peas are adapted to grow in just about any of our zones, in the cooler, wetter zones that you'll find further north in Alberta, down to the drier, sunnier spots down in southern Alberta. Our next largest pulse crop are our lentils. We grow red and green lentils, primarily in southern Alberta. So think Calgary, further down south to the US border, and then as far east and west as you can go. They like a little bit more heat, a little bit more sunshine. Our 3rd largest crop are our dry beans. So beans are grown in southern Alberta, specifically between Taber, Vauxhall, and Bow Island, between Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. They're grown under irrigation. Our 3 largest crops are pinto beans, Great Northern beans, and black beans. Out of all of those, pintos are our largest crop. So you'll see lots of that happening. We grow some chickpeas in the southeast corner of the province, kind of around the Medicine Hat area, a little bit between zone 1, what we call zone 1 and zone 2, so in southern Alberta. And then we also grow some fava beans. Production varies depending on the crop year and the weather conditions, but they can grow, again, same as peas, in cooler, wetter climates or warmer, drier ones as well. So we do grow probably anywhere. We average about 1.8 million seeded acres per year. And as I mentioned, we have about 6,000 farmers growing pulses across the province. All right, back to Tara.
Thank you, Deborah. So next I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what is soil chemistry. So I have worked a little bit closely with some soil research scientists and soil agronomists. And so soil chemistry is a branch of science that deals with the chemical composition, chemical reactions, and chemical properties in soil. And it also includes the abiotic phases of the soil, which includes your solids or your organic matter, inorganic minerals, liquids, so and the water that can be found within soil, and gases or soil air, while the biotic phase consists of living organisms, which is also referenced by the University of Saskatchewan. So I'm going to introduce you now to Lara Demasiak. So she has a Master's of Science and is an precision agronomist that works specifically with swap maps, but has taken some time to talk to us today about what soil science and soil chemistry is all about, and kind of what she does in her line of work. She's also attended Olds College, where she worked at getting a Bachelor of Applied Science. And she's got her Bachelor of Science in Agriculture Studies from the University of Lethbridge and a Master's of Soil Science from the University of Saskatchewan. So Lara is also an amazing person in that she's a wonderful professional gardener and has been an agronomy assistant, graduate student managing her own project lab work and such, and also formerly worked for Real Agriculture as a staff writer. So at this time, I'm going to pause things and we're going to turn it over to a quick video on what Lara does with soil science and kind of in her role.
I have an untraditional route into agronomy. I started out in horticulture. I knew that I wanted to be in horticulture right away in high school, so I went to Olds College and I did an environmental horticulture applied degree, and then I worked for a bit and realized that I wanted to know more about agriculture, so I went back to school. I did an agricultural sciences degree at the University of Lethbridge. It was great because it was a small university, and I felt that I was getting quite a good quality education in a very diversified area to learn about lots of different crops. After that, I had a chance to work in the lower mainland of BC as a hops agronomist, which is and there's not a lot of those. So it was a very unique opportunity. After that, I decided to go back to school once more and do a master's in soil science because I had always known that I wanted to know more about soil. So now I am a precision agronomist, so I take a lot of the soil information that we collect from mapping fields and from soil tests, and we put all of those pieces of information together to create a prescription, a variable rate prescription for farmers. So variable rate prescription means that we can tailor the rate of seed and for fertilizer and also soil amendments to particular areas of the field, and we base ours off of landscape positions. So areas of the field that are knolls will get a different rate from mid-slopes and from depressions. So about 12,000 years ago was the last glaciation period. It was called the Wisconsin glaciation period. And as it moved across the prairies, it would have scraped the landscape and also would have deposited sand, silt, and clay in various compositions across the prairies. And so over time, and with the influence of climate, different types of vegetation in combination with precipitation would have affected the soil formation underneath, or the amount of organic matter that was deposited, as well as the sand, silt, and clay particles. So parent material time, climate, the relief or the topography of the landscape, and also human influences play into the soil forming factors. So there are 4 major soil zones in Alberta, going from north to south. There's the gray, the black. You could argue that there's the dark brown, but then there's also the brown. So yeah, 4 in total, and each soil zone was formed under different formation factors, but in terms of plant growth or crop growth, certain crops will tolerate the relative dryness of each zone in a different way. As an agronomist or a soil scientist, the answer is always it depends. But let's say in this kind of dark brown soil that we're standing in right now, it could be billions of microorganisms. So that would mean gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria, arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, other types of fungi, actinomycetes, as kind of a functional group. So there's a lot. So soil is made of organic materials, mineral materials, air, and water. The composition roughly goes about 25% air and water, 25% organic material, and 50% mineral material. But again, that depends on the soil. You can determine soil texture roughly in the field by the hand texturing method, which I'm going to demonstrate in a second here. But there's also a couple of lab methods to determine soil texture. There's kind of a wide range of textures within Alberta, anywhere from, well, I've seen personally, anywhere from a very heavy clay to a very light sand. I like to think that each soil has their different type of potential, and each textural class can be worked with in various ways to make a crop grow. But generally, a clay loam or a loam, kind of within this area, grows crops the easiest. Last year there was pretty widespread drought, so we recommended soil testing not only in the fall, but in certain cases in the spring as well. So we could go back in and test for residual amounts of ammonium and nitrate, and let producers know that if probably wouldn't be a good idea to plant a pulse crop in that field because it won't. We want the pulse crop to fix its own nitrogen, and if it has residual amounts of or too much ammonium and nitrate, it won't actually initiate nodulation, and the nitrogen benefits wouldn't fully be realized in that field. When we get a soil test report back, generally we want to look at the soil pH and other things like organic matter, the textural class, and that can determine how many or how much nutrient that soil can obtain in a given situation. So then we can take those soil test reports and the major and the levels of the major so the matter of nutrients, the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and sulfur. And then if the grower is concerned about a particular micronutrient, we can also test for that. And once we get that result back, we can create a fertilizer plan where we can place the most optimal amount of nutrient at the right landscape position so that they are, the crop can use it, but it also doesn't get lost to environmental factors. So something that's become really important in the last 20 to 30 years is the idea of 4R nutrient management, and that can be for nitrogen and phosphorus as well as all the other nutrients, but nitrogen is probably the most mobile nutrient in the soil, so it's the most susceptible to different kinds of losses. And the four R's stand for the right rate, source, time, and place, and all of those rights work together to create a cohesive fertility plan if the agronomist is 4R certified. It's definitely a very important tool that can be used. It's a good philosophy about keeping nutrients where they should be and applying the right amounts at the right time from the right sources and in the right placement within the soil, so that we are maintaining sustainability in terms of an environmental and an economic and a social aspect. So this is an 8-inch soil probe. It's not got a very sharp tip, so we'll see how well of a job it does in taking a core today. But it's pretty simple, and there's also mechanized versions of this that can go directly in your soil sampling truck. Normally you could get this entire core filled, okay, and it would show you the types of soil going down to 8 inches in this field. When you can go deeper in the soil, it gives you more information about how that soil might have formed and what kind of nutrients or nutrient levels you'd expect to see deeper in the profile. So nutrients like nitrogen and sulfur are highly mobile within soil, and so if you can go deep with your soil tests, you can find the levels of those soils deeper in the profile.
Thank you for coming back to us. And additionally, I wanted to also let you know, for a more detailed demonstration on how to do soil ribbon testing, please refer to the link, an additional video that can be found after this presentation. And we'll carry on. So I'm going to turn it back over to Deborah now, then she'll allow her to talk a little bit more about pulses and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. And thanks to Lara for that really cool demonstration and discussion about soil chemistry and what she does as an agronomist in the field. Kind of going back into that, I mean, this lends itself very well. Pulses play a very important role in sustaining the health of the environment as well as our soil. What I've got for you here on this particular slide is this is a photo of a faba bean plant, the root system. So farmers will often go out into the field as the pulse crops are developing and growing. And what they'll do is they'll pull the odd pulse plant out of the ground, because what they want to do is examine to see what the nodulation is. So what I've got here is this wonderful sort of formation of root nodules. So pulses have this wonderful ability to take nitrogen from the air, partner with bacteria in the soil to fix nitrogen and almost create their own fertilizer to help with their growth. And part of that system, when we're talking about soil chemistry, what happens with this whole particular system? So if you're looking here at this picture of the root, you see these little white circles on there. Those are the nodules. And what happens is, as the pulse plant is growing, there's a specific bacteria in the soil called rhizobium. And what the rhizobium will do is it causes an infection on the root, the hairs and the fibers of the root, that causes this nodule to form. And then this is where this beneficial nitrogen fixation system works. So this is the formation of root nodules. This is the little slide that I've got here. And there's a bit more information in the notes pages here for you as well. But it's a wonderful symbiotic relationship where the bacteria help the plant to get that nitrogen that it needs, but the plant provides the nutrients that the bacteria need to survive. So it's a really great relationship that gets formed. So because of that, pulses don't need a whole lot, or if any, synthetic nitrogen fertilizer, which then makes them a low carbon footprint food. Pulses are very water savvy in that they need very little water to grow, and again, are adapted to grow in a number of different types of climates. And the other thing is, with this nitrogen fixation, as well as other crop residual works that the root system does, it enriches the soil where they grow. So pulses are really a wonderful addition to any crop rotation system to help improve the soil for the next crop that comes along that the pulse farmer or that the producer will plant the following season.
Excellent.
There, I'll turn it back to Tara, and you can talk about canola and sustainability.
With pleasure. Thank you, Deborah. So in regards to canola and sustainability, so canola is actually a really excellent at sequestering carbon, in that it removes carbon from the atmosphere and stores it underground, because its roots are much longer than most other crops. And canola's longer, deep roots helps the canola plant to be resilient in prolonged droughts, and increases the plant's nitrogen use efficiency, which again reduces nitrous oxide emissions as well. And then we've got canola being an excellent reflective crop on the prairies, which has an increased albedo effect. And canola actively helps to cool our planet as it reflects more energy to space than it receives. And more information about this can be found in the influence of 2 management practices in the Canadian prairies on radiative forcing study. And just a quick image over here on my right side of the screen for your information, which talks about that a little bit more. And then canola is also great in that it incorporates genetic traits into canola, and it's innovative in crop protection and nutrient management, as farmers have been able to increase their yield from 26.5 bushels of canola per acre to just over 40 bushels in recent years. And more information about that can be found on the Canadian Canola Council website as well. And canola production is doing its part for social sustainability, in that it's producing an oil that is healthy, versatile, and affordable for all. And finally, just as a fun little side note, and you can come back through here a little bit later, but if you want to check out a really neat little bit of video on bees and canola and their sweet relationship, and again, talking about the sustainable relationship between bees and canola production. So moving ahead here, we've also got our next video talks a little bit about sustainability practices on the farm, and how our farmers are sustainable practicing on the farm. Pardon me, it's quite a tongue twister. So again, they're using different things like to conserve topsoil. Farmers will use zero till. They might use as GPS, variable rate seeding, And then some of the equipment with the technology that it has in regards to the sensors. Some combines have over 200 sensors on it to help them when they're harvesting, to making sure that they're being the most efficient as possible when harvesting their crop. And as Deb mentioned earlier, we also have crop rotation, so that to make sure we're caring for the soil and being as environmentally friendly and stewardship and thought as possible. We also do soil reports, as mentioned by Lara, and we'll be talked a little bit more about our canola producer Ian from Airdrie. And then again, utilizing direct seeding and conserving moisture loss and that kind of thing, and reducing our overall amount of tillage. And these are just some of our images taken from our producers that they shared with us here in regards to their GPS and different equipment that they utilize to seed and to harvest and whatnot during the cropping year. Deborah, is there anything else you want to add at this time or on the slide while we're here?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. And then we've got a link there to a canola producer, Ian Chitwood, who'll talk a little bit more about what sustainability means to him as a producer here in Alberta.
Great. Thank you so much, Deborah. And I'm going to turn it now over to Deborah, who'll talk about nutrients for plants and people.
Yeah, it's, we've been talking a little bit about soil chemistry and those soil chemistry, like those soil reports that tell the producer or the farmer what kinds of nutrients are in the soil and, what perhaps the different plants will need. So just like people, plants require the right nutrients in order to grow effectively. So what I've got here is, for this particular slide, is that, it's nutrients for plants and people. Plants require the same types of nutrients that people do for different types of reasons. So probably one of the key nutrients that plants need, as well as people, is nitrogen. So for plants, as you can see here, nitrogen is very important for leaf, stem, and root growth, as well as formation of chlorophyll. For people, it's an essential building block within our proteins and the amino acids, and it's essential for all of our cells. Another key nutrient is potassium. For plants, important for water uptake, improving resistance to pests and disease. And for humans, promotes healthy muscles and blood circulation in the body, as well as plays an important role in sort of our water balance as well. Calcium is another key nutrient for leaf growth and root growth for plants, as well as cell division and nutrient uptake. And for us, building strong bones and teeth is a key nutrient there. Magnesium is really important from a plant perspective because it contributes to photosynthesis as well as activating enzymes. And for us, it's very important for our heart and our blood vessel health. Phosphorus is another key nutrient, looking at the development for flowers, fruits, and seeds within our plants. And for us, it helps with brain and nerve function. And then sulfur is another important nutrient for amino acid and photosynthesis within plants. And then for people, key nutrient within amino acids as well as proteins, and it's essential for our growth. So providing the correct nutrients for our plants, for our crops to grow, as well as for people is key.
Thank you, Deborah.
Along that line, oh, sorry, Tara, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, that's okay. Just for a second here, Deborah. So for canola crops, so they particularly also are going to need more sulfur compared to other crops because they're producing so much oil in their seeds. Just as a quick side note, if people were interested in wondering, a random fact of the day. But now we'll carry on, sorry, Deborah, and we'll let you talk about pulse nutrition facts. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. So just like we were talking about before, we need to provide those nutrients for the crops to grow. And then those nutrients in turn can provide nutrients for us as well. So thinking of pulses and what pulses can provide, in terms of the macronutrients, or those larger nutrients that we find within pulses, pulses are an excellent source of plant-based protein, 9 grams per half cup cooked serving, a really great source of complex carbohydrates. So looking at soluble and insoluble fiber, 8 grams per half cup cooked serving. So about a third of the requirement that we need per day. Also a source of resistant starch and slowly digestible starch. Micronutrients that we find within pulses here are vitamins, our B vitamins. I made a bit of a boo-boo here. So B vitamins, including thiamine, niacin, and folate. And then for minerals, we're looking at potassium, magnesium, zinc, and iron. And pulses are an excellent source of folate if that's a nutrient that you're looking to include more of in your diet. And then some other fun facts is that pulses are, vegetarian, vegan, so you'll find them playing a key role in those particular dietary patterns. And pulses are naturally gluten-free. So you'll find a lot of different pulse ingredients in many types of gluten-free foods available for people with celiac disease. And leading into that, health benefits of pulses. So those different types of components that we find within pulses can contribute to some health benefits as well. Pulses are considered to be an excellent part of a heart-healthy type of dietary pattern. They can help reduce cholesterol because of that, because of the components that they have within them in terms of being low in saturated fat, and the type of fiber that we find present in there can help. That soluble fiber can help with controlling and reducing cholesterol levels. The type of protein, the type of being low in saturated fat, as well as the nutrients, the micronutrients we find in there, the vitamins and minerals, can help with controlling blood pressure, which all can contribute to heart health. So pulses are considered to be a very diabetes-friendly food. And I know a lot of people go, but gee, Deb, there's carbs in there, and I don't know if that's something that, if I have diabetes, that's something I want to include. But the type of carbohydrate, it's a complex carbohydrate, not a simple carbohydrate. So between the soluble and insoluble fiber, the resistant starch, which is not digested in our small intestine, but contributes more to the bacterial health within our large intestine, as well as the slowly digestible starch, all contribute to pulses being what's considered to be a low glycemic index food. So including pulses as part of a diabetes-friendly meal pattern actually helps to control blood glucose levels. Blood glucose doesn't go as high as fast when pulses are part of that meal. And then again, talking about digestive health, pulses, because of their fiber content, can contribute to bowel regularity as well as health of those beneficial bacteria in the large intestine. So those nutrients that we find in pulses really can have positive health benefits to us as well. So now I'll turn it back over to Tara to talk about canola.
Thank you, Deborah. So carrying on here. So in regards to canola nutrition facts, so it's a heart smart cooking oil, and that it has no cholesterol. It's low in saturated fat. It is high in alpha linoleic acid, or ALA, which is an essential omega-3 fatty acid. It contains linoleic acid, or LA, and is essential omega-6 fatty acid. It's a great source of vitamin E and K. It's gluten-free, and it has high oleic levels, which are important in that it helps food manufacturers to, in that it's more regarded as a shelf-stable product. So it doesn't break down as much under high heat and that kind of thing, is why it's used in more producing cookies and crackers and that kind of fun thing. And in addition, I would like to mention at this time, as per Deb and I throughout this presentation, if you're looking for more additional details, please do refer to the notes section under respective slides. Carrying on here. So it's, as I said, it's heart healthy in that it lowers our LDL cholesterol. So it decreases the plaque buildup in the arterial walls. It's diabetes friendly in that it controls blood glucose levels as well, and assists in brain development and infant development. And Deborah, did you want to talk to any of these points in specific, or would you like me to go to the next slide and then come back?
Maybe go to the next slide and then we can pop back.
Perfect. Okay. So in regards to the information that we just discussed, here is the comparison of dietary fat chart. So the red bars here and these are comparing different types of cooking oils. The canola oil is here at the top because it's lowest in the saturated fats. And then we've got the blue and blue, orange, and kind of yellow, if you will, which are unsaturated fatty acids. So it's high in unsaturated fats and lowest in saturated fats. So again, canola oil is one of those heart healthy fats. And Deborah, is there anything now you would like to additionally add at this time? That's okay.
No problem. No, it's kind of interesting because when you start looking at the composition of canola oil and different types of oils, it kind of helps to bring into greater focus how those health benefits are coming about. So as Tara had mentioned, canola is being a heart healthy type of oil to use. So as you can see here, because of the high levels of monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat, that is what contributes to helping to reduce cholesterol levels. So including canola oil is part, you know, if you're looking at what type of oil to include in your diet, canola oil is a great choice for that. Being that it is diabetes friendly, it's that monounsaturated fat content that helps to contribute to controlling blood glucose levels. And then looking at the omega-6 and the omega-3 fatty acids, that's what is the contributing factor to assisting in brain development and brain growth in children and infants. So a wonderful blend of fatty acids that we require for our growth and development, all within one great oil. And as Tara had mentioned, in terms of that oleic acid level, that contributes to what we call the smoke point. So oils have a smoke point. So canola oil has a very high smoke point, which means that it can withstand really high temperatures. So it's a wonderful oil. If you're doing a stir fry, if you have to do something at a higher heat level, the canola oil stays stable throughout that cooking process without breaking down and getting, because when it starts to break down, that's when it'll start to smoke. So that's why it's a wonderful oil to use in a lot of different applications.
Perfect. Thanks, Deborah. I appreciate that coming from a registered dietitian's perspective. A little bit more science explained. All right. So moving ahead here. So we would like to mention at this time, so we did do a little bit of a demo for you on black bean egg bites. And if you can refer to the link, additional link to check out this demonstration of how to make these scrumptious little morsels, a great on-the-go snack and that kind of thing. Deborah, is there anything else you'd like to add at this point to this?
Yeah, so this video, we did something a little bit different. So it's more of a, what we would call a tasty video. So it's not a really long video, but just shows the ingredients and the recipe coming together. But the idea behind it is that with this particular recipe, it helps to talk, you know, you can use this to talk a little bit loosely about budgeting, you know, comparing the cost of, let's say, doing this recipe from scratch compared to if you were to, you know, buy an egg bite or something like that at, you know, your local coffee shop. It's a very versatile recipe in terms of, you know, being able to substitute different vegetables, whatever you've got on hand in the fridge, versus you don't necessarily have to use what we've mentioned, but again, substitute similar amounts in there. Can talk a little bit about meal planning. So this is one that you can prepare ahead of time. It's great served warm. You can serve it cold, something that's on the go. And the other thing that's kind of cool too is it speaks a little bit too about that whole, you know, shopping local, supporting local. So, you know, ingredients can be locally grown in Alberta, but also Canadian grown. So, you know, Canadian egg farmers or Alberta egg farmers, Canadian pulse growers or Alberta pulse growers, canola, you know, producers here in Alberta versus Canadian. So again, local doesn't necessarily always mean, you know, right out your door, but it can be, you know, looking for that product of Canada logo on your food items as you're at the grocery store. So there's lots of different ways to sort of talk about how the versatility of this recipe can link into different concepts as well.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. And yeah, and just again on that sustainability factor too with the egg bites is another idea that we tried to approach with this in regards to buying more local or at least with Canadian made intention. So carrying on, we're coming to the near end of our presentation. Our time is pretty short today. Hopefully you've learned a thing or two, and definitely check out Alberta Pulse Growers for more wonderful resources that they've been producing as of late. And Deborah, do you want to talk about your additional resource you're working on in the background for a minute?
Yes, thank you. I'd love to just for those of you, if you've used our resources in the past, thank you very much. They are still available free of charge. We still have our Pulses from Farm to Table. Our classroom support program is still available. Something that is brand new, which we've referenced to quite a bit with the content in this presentation, we have a junior high version of our Pulse Cafe that is focusing on soil science. So I've got some examples there. It's currently available on our website, on our resources page, and we will have hard copies available for you to order for as a teacher guide, as well as student workbook guides as well. So really excited to share that with you and bring, it's for the junior high curriculum, so to bring that to life for you and your students.
Perfect. Thank you, Deborah. And on the Learn Canola side, so we've been busy updating, getting our new website launched and so forth. Still continuing with resource development, and check back in January is all I'm January, maybe March, for potential new resource coming to you in the future. And for now, that is where I'm going to leave that at, and that would be specifically targeted more for the junior high school audience as well. So on that fun note, we also would just like to take a moment to recognize that there's some other great additional resources out there, and something that both Deborah and myself and with Alberta Wheat and Barley are partnered with is to do a module for projectagriculture.com. Be sure to check out that for junior high resource there, and feel free to check any of those out. And on that, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for taking the time to join us today. Hopefully you learned a little more about soil chemistry, soil science. And here's our contact information to reach Deborah or myself. And we do hope to hear from you soon within the future. For now, take care, and we hope that you have a great and successful remainder of the school year to come. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.